The Honourable Member for Tsuawe.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Acting Speaker, just for the benefit of the House, my question without notice goes to the Minister for Treasury. From the last Parliament sitting, where we voted the Governor-General, there's a few things that happened. We had droves of young men and women outside the Stanley Hotel in the thousands applying for about 20 jobs, menial labour jobs, dishwashers, waiters, waitresses. We had 700 degree holders apply to become teachers at the University of Goroka. We've recently had the Lay Biscuit Company shut down for 2 weeks because it can't sell its products. We've got a youth bulge issue in the country that the House must take note of, Mr. Assistant Speaker. There's too many young people without any prospects or opportunity for employment in the country. So my question to the Honourable Treasurer, what is the government's plan for employment? How do we address this issue of youth unemployment? What do we do to increase the number of people that are gainfully employed so this can directly address the rising crime rate that we're seeing in the country now? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
The Honourable Minister, the Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Vice Minister and the Honourable Member for his very timely question on what plans the Marape Rosso government has to creating jobs in our country. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of initiatives at a very high level that this government has taken to create jobs. And this is one of the very, very key initiatives that our government has been working on and must continue to work on. At a high level, from a budget perspective, Mr. Speaker, we continue to restructure our budget and to ensure that we pump more money into those economic activities that will create jobs. I'm referring here, Mr. Speaker, to our capital budget, which 3 years ago when we took office was sitting at around about 4.6 billion kina. This year, as the Honourable Member knows, in his planning documents, we've increased that to 9.7 billion kina. Of that particular budget, our PIP, or Public Investment Promotion, Public Investment Project component, we've increased it from a little bit over 2 billion when we took over office to around about 6.6 this year, a 220% increase. So at a high level from a budget perspective, that's what we've done. But of course, Mr. Speaker, there are other issues when we talk about creating jobs. If you recall, Mr. Speaker, I had answered this question back in about 2020 when I was asked, and I mentioned that then that jobs growth for any government will be delivered by pro-job and pro-growth policies. With our government, as you know, Vice Minister, we have set a target of 10,000 jobs in a formal economy and many, many more in the informal economy, which covers, of course, our SMEs and rural workers. So one of our first targets is we need to make sure that we make PNG an internationally competitive economy, including through ensuring our wage rates are brought into line with regional averages. Of course, higher wages can mean less jobs in an economy such as PNG, so it's always about getting the right balance. The Marape Rosso government is very much focused on building the agriculture, fisheries and tourism sectors, and increasing, of course, downstream processing. And of course, last weekend we saw the results of some of the good work being completed and implemented in the Gazelle electorate. Of course, we need to continue to look at greater funding in our infrastructure, and we have done that by setting PNG Connects as our signature policy. And in this year's budget, I'm very pleased to advise our country and the House that we have implemented one of the legislative changes we made, which was to ensure that 5.6%, I think it is, I stand to be corrected, of our annual revenue forecast is put aside for that particular program. This year, if I recall correctly, we had budgeted 1.2 billion kina. So that's some of the things that we've been doing so far. In agriculture, for example, some of the exciting initiatives that we've taken, we've properly invested in a state equity fund in agriculture of 40 million kina last year, and that was to support the expansion of large-scale projects. We've created new ministries of coffee, palm oil to ensure a focus on these key areas of investment. We have significant investments in roads, like we've mentioned, and I'm very, very happy to, at another time, provide a very detailed statement, or perhaps my colleague, the Minister for Roads Works, can do that, to detail the record number of contracts that have been issued and to explain that in a way that our people can understand. I won't go into some of the example of road projects which we've covered already here. So I'll just move on very quickly to fisheries investment. We need to, in this particular space, properly invest in our Pacific marine industrial zones. Last year, of course, we budgeted 100 million, and this year we have our new minister, our effective Minister for International Trade and Investment, working on that. Of course, we also need to expand our rural jetties. Last year we budgeted 4 million kina, and this year I think we doubled that amount. In tourism, again, an untouched and a huge potential for our country that we continue to talk about. I will leave some more detailed discussions to the Minister for that. But lastly, other initiatives that help us create more jobs is to deal with the greatest barrier of doing business in our country. And we've heard in the last 3.5 years, and in fact before that when we took government, that foreign exchange reforms together with reforms to the Central Banking Act must take place, and I'm very happy to advise that later this afternoon I'll touch a little bit more on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.